Hello and welcome to Guy Logic. My name is Temko and today we are taking a look at Tharsis. So, what is Tharsis? Tharsis describes itself as a turn-based space strategy game with dice and cannibalism. The game is being developed by a small indie studio called Choice Providers, who were previously known as Gaijin Games. Now, they've been working on Tharsis for the past 2 years, and the question we're gonna answer is if it's any good. The goal with Tharsis is to get your crew to Mars sort of alive. The game does this by providing you a strategic mix of balancing resources such as food and unit stress, as well as dice rolls and other random elements, and throws a bunch of technical and natural disasters your way in the trip to Mars. Your ability to tactically solve these issues will make or break your mission. And after your inevitable demise, you can just restart a new run, and if you've unlocked the various other characters, you can mix and match your crew to your heart's content. But without further ado, let's get started in the options menu and see what makes Tharsis great and where it lacks. So, the options menu. You can see resolution options going all the way from 720p to 1080p. My monitor doesn't go any higher. I'm pretty sure the game does go higher, but I'm not sure why you would want to do that. But regardless, it's available, it's there, windowed and full screen modes. No full screen windowed, sadly, so that's a bit of a shame, but it is an indie studio and we do have to make some allowances. They do have separate volume sliders for master volume, music volume, and effects volume, which is always really good. I always like that. Feasting on or off, bloom, subtitles for 5 different languages, so that's pretty good. Most AAA releases don't even have multiple languages, let alone 5, so that's really good. Motion blur on or off. I normally turn motion blur off. I haven't done this in this game. I'll show the graphics in a little bit and show you why I haven't, because they don't really impact that much and it does look a little bit cleaner. Anti-aliasing, as well as some texture quality and shadow quality off, low, high, as well as low, medium, high for texture quality. And that really brings us down to the end of the options menu. It's a simple game with pretty decent options. On the left side you have some links. They open in a browser, which is not the best solution, because it will minimize your game window and it may actually crash the game, which Zizia has had some issues with. I've had some reports on some issues with the game technically. Either the developer has responded really well on those and fixed them as fast as they could. Patches have been released nearly every day for the last week, so that is really good. They are on top of any issues. And I personally have not had a single problem with the game, and it is running on an absolutely smooth bajillion frames per second. Again, it's not a hard game for your computer to handle. So that is the end of the options menu. If you want to reset, just press default, and that brings you back to their settings. So, having seen this option menu, you might be wondering and going, well, Temko, you're telling me the options are pretty nice, but how does the game play? Well, let's get into that. Let's get into some gameplay. Let's press new game, and the game is a lot like a board game, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in just a second. But before you get started on the game, you first have to select your crew of 4. Now, these characters each have their own special ability, and they'll benefit you in some certain ways to get through the game. Now, I haven't actually beaten the game myself, having tried about 15 times in about 10 hours. And there's certain criteria to unlock various characters, such as the pilot for beating the game, and the psychologist by earning research, and so on, to get everyone, including the cannibal, that requires you to eat human meals, which is part of this game. Difficulty setting normal and hard, and normal is already pretty damn hard on its own. I'm not sure how hard is, because I'm afraid of trying it. There's a random button, so you can randomize what kind of crew you get, and then you just start the game straight up. Now I'm gonna skip all of this and show you exactly what I mean by the gameplay is like a board game. First things first. The ship has certain modules. Each of these modules has certain benefits when used, such as regaining crew health or reducing stress. Now, there's a few things you have to manage in order to survive to Mars, which takes 10 turns. Each turn is complete when all 4 of your, or if you have less, all surviving crew members have done their thing. The turn will advance and the major events will trigger, and that will result in the next turn. Should you all die or your ship be destroyed, that will be that, and you will have to start a new run. There is some persistence in terms of research and meals eaten and stuff like that to unlock new characters, so not everything is lost. When you don't complete a run, when you die halfway through, like I've done repeatedly, you do unlock some things for a consequent run, so that's pretty good. It gives a lot of replayability to the game. Now, the major resources you have to keep track of are your ship's health, which keeps you alive, your assists, which I'll get into in a second, which are really tied into the dice roll mechanic system, as well as food, which is one of the major ways to recover available dice rolls for your crew.
Now, I have 4 crew, and each of them is in a separate module, and now I can pick and choose what I want to do with them. These crews have different white blocks on their portraits. These are the dice they have available for that turn, and colored blocks on the right side of the portrait indicate their health. Health to 0, dead crew member. Dice at 1, you only have 1 dice. Dice at 5, you have 5 dice to roll. 5 dice obviously better because you have more chances to roll the dice you need to perform the actions you want. And you can really see how this game would be a board game, and I believe the developers have taken a lot of inspiration from board games to develop the game mechanics, and they're really good because of that, because they're really well thought out of in a contained package. Now, let's do some actions, and I'll explain to you how things are unfolding here. So I'm going to pick my captain, who has 3 blocks under his name, and I'm going to use him here in this module where he was already at. I'm going to press the module and click deploy. There we go. Now, this opens the deployment menu, and let me talk a bit about graphics for a second here. You can see the graphics aren't stunningly animated graphics that have these weird moving things, and that's one of the reasons why motion blur is turned on, because there really isn't a lot of motion, and the little motion that there is mostly in the animation to transit from one to another type of view, which is really good, and that really gives it a smooth feel like you're zooming in. So I kept that turned on. Now, one of the things I really like is all the screens and all the various ways they've put them in as if they could actually be a current day spacecraft. Like, this is something I would imagine looking at the ISS. Like how it's round, it has modules everywhere. This one's on the bottom, so somehow it has chairs on the bottom, but there's an astronaut floating on screen going, oh well, this module's up here, let me use this here. There's no reason to have it on the ground because I'm floating in space. And all the modules are done that way, and it's really good. So I really like that. Each module has a distinct feel to it as well, and they all feel pretty contemporary. They don't feel sci-fi. They feel like this could be something we could build today, provided we had the means and desire to do so. So that's really good. Now, let's get into gameplay mode of this screen, which is where you'll be spending most of your time making decisions. On the bottom left, you have research projects. You can see the dice 1 to 6 there. Each of these, when you don't roll a dice, I'm going to roll a dice just to show you. When you roll a dice, you can add these to your research. And each of these dice will be available for 1 research point. And below that, you have various research options you can enact, and that will cost a certain amount of points. Hacking costs 1, it gives you 1 assist. Choice harvest gives you +1 food for 3 points. And getting +3 to the ship in the top left will cost you 5. So you will need to use 5 dice to get this repair arm up, which is really a heavy investment. So that's really part of the strategic decision making. Now, on the screen itself, each module has a certain ability. This module is there to reduce stress. It will reduce member stress of the active crew by 60%. But you need a 5 or higher. Now I have a 5, and that's pretty good. So I could use this and reduce my captain's stress levels. Also, the captain has the ability to add 1 die to crew in the module. So it will give me an extra dice roll to those in the module if I have a 5 or higher. And I only have 5, so I can use it to reduce stress, or I can use it to give my specialist, who's also in the module, an extra die to cast in his or her turn. So again, already a lot of decisions, and this is the very first action I'm doing. Also, I have a reroll mechanic. If I don't like my dice, I can try and reroll. But here as well is a very strategic choice you have to make. In the top left, you will see stasis and stasis on a 1 and a 3. Now you just, if you're paying attention, you just noticed the assist kicking in when I rolled this 3. The assist is now gone I had here up in the top right. This means I have no more assists left. What an assist does is it nullifies the negative consequences of certain dice rolls available. Now in this case, stasis would lock the die in place, and I wouldn't be able to re-roll the die. I would have to use whatever it fell on. Obviously a 1 is terrible. It's the lowest roll you can get, and you need higher rolls. So terrible if you get this assist. So assists are really important there. But also, even more than that, there's various other effects, such as injury, which will damage your crew member. And if they only have 1 health and you get an injury, they're dead. That's it. There's no fallback. They die. Which is not that good. They also have void, which removes the die completely, not even allowing you to use it like stasis does. So there's various different effects, and these effects get progressively worse the further down the line you are in amount of turns. So that is really important to take with you. Okay, so I have a 5 and 3 and a 2. I'm going to use the 5 under repair. I'm going to re-roll these two. Hopefully I'll get a higher die. I have a 4 and a 4. That's really good. That means I can repair this. And this 4 is too low for the reduced stress and too low for my extra. So I'm going to put this one in research just so it doesn't go to waste. And I'm going to finish this deployment, and that's that. Now, my captain is now grayed out. My module has been resolved, so I'm not going to get any damage from that, which would be -1 die roll to all my crew. I still have this other module, which is my greenhouse that harvests food, which has 23 points I need to recover from it, and it will do 2 damage to my ship if I do not, which is actually pretty terrible, because that would mess me up quite badly. Now, I can pick my next character. I'm going to take the mechanic, send him to the module, roll my die, and get a 6 and a 1. The 6, not too bad. I'm going to use that and roll the 1 again. Hopefully not getting a 2. I got a 2. I see I didn't have an assist, and the stasis kicked in, so I, besides having already used my reroll, I can't reroll this die in any way. So that's it. His job is done. As you can see, he only has 1 block left. These are consumed every time you finish your turn. The captain also has only 2 left instead of 3. So that means I need to replenish these with food or through the use of my life support bay, which also is one of the components here. So you can see how these layered strategic decisions come one after the other. And the combination of dice rolls, which give you random effects, as well as these random events that have different various consequences, really make the game very, very hard and very compelling. Now, this is about my 16th or 17th run at the game. I've not yet finished it, and I refuse to give up until I have. It is mind-bogglingly frustrating in a good way to do this, and it plays like FTL would or any other roguelite game would, which, if you like that sort of thing, this game is a very good example of that, and I'm really, really enjoying myself. So, let me get one more action in with the doctor and show you something else. As you can see, the doctor can also move everywhere. Not a problem. But she can't move to this forward module unless she takes 1 health penalty hit. That's because she would need to go through a damage module. So there's also movement restrictions, which also have their ways to get managed if that should prove necessary. But so you always have the decision you have to make. Now the doctor had 4 die, so that theoretically I can, and apparently I can, which is really, really good, resolve this event. And I'm gonna re-roll and see if I can't get a 5 or higher, just so I can get a point in research here, trying to get that repair arm up and running, because +3 to my ship is pretty decent. And I'm gonna finish this turn with the specialist, just to show you what happens after every turn, where another layer of strategic decision making is in place. My specialist doesn't really have anything special to do, but because the specialist can re-roll multiple times, I'm gonna just put my specialist into reading in dice rolls, just so she has more dice the next turn. See if I can get that going for me. I have a 3 and a 2. I'm gonna put the 3 in here and see if I can roll another 3. Please, game, don't hate me. Well, that's absolutely terrible. Well, at least I get to add extra research points. So that didn't turn out quite well as I'd have hoped. Yeah, I did regain a bunch of die, but, you know, not exactly what I was going for. I wanted to get more die. Impeding damage. There's no damage. I resolved all issues. Skip the story so just don't spoil it. And you have choices to perform here now. After every turn you complete, you have to make a choice. These choices are sometimes terrible and sometimes outright horrifying, but you have to make them every turn nonetheless. Now, we have 2 groups here. One of them says, well, 2 health for us, and we're reducing the dice rolls of all crew members by 1, which is not that great. The other is +1 dice for all crew, but -2 health for them. Now, this is a problem, because -2 health for them will result in the doctor getting killed. So I just can't take this choice now, and that would kill the doctor. But it will increase their stress if I don't. Again, the catch-22. Either I choose this, not get the stress, but kill my doctor, or I don't choose it and get that stress on him. But I'm going to go with 2 health and -1 die, because that is the lesser evil. Also, I now only have 1 food, because I didn't generate any other food this turn. So I'm going to add some food to the captain, giving him some more die. That means the others don't get any extra die this turn. Obviously, this is a bad situation. and I do need to solve that. Now I have 2 new random events. Next turn up, 9 weeks left to Mars. You have to survive these 10 turns, obviously. Now, imminent destruction means that I'm getting at least equal amount of damage that the ship already has hit points for. And so I need to resolve at least one of these 2 issues this turn. And that shouldn't prove too harsh, as I have 4 dice on my captain and some other stuff here as well. Or I can increase my health and survive until next turn. Maybe I can use that time to regain some die on some of my other characters. Or maybe I can use some health recovery on my doctor, so she is not in that much danger. And each turn brings these choices time and again, making them difficult and more difficult as the game progresses further. Now, eventually you'll run out of food. Eventually you will be fucked up. Eventually you're gonna have to resort to cannibalism to decide whether or not you're gonna eat some of your dead crew and try make it to Mars or not. So the game really drives in how desperate these people are to survive and get where they're going. And the story does a good job of explaining that as well. So all in all, the game has a very nice mix of managing resources in assists, food, health, movement, and dice rolls, as well as ship health, coupled with a nice strategic mix of things. You can mitigate these random events of dice rolls using research, using dice rolls to have more dice rolls, using assists. You can mitigate all of this quite a bit with skill and tactical planning, making this game less of a randomized experience than I was initially led to believe, and more of a strategic experiment, damn that's a hard word, than it appears to be. And this is really, really good because, as I said earlier, it feels like a board game. And most board games have this amazing mix of pure strategy with random elements in the form, usually, of die rolls. So I really like that, what they've done here, and I really like this game, and I heartily recommend it as a small little side game you can play for about half an hour in a time, get a run in, win, lose, who matters, who cares, you had some fun, you try again next time. Now, that really concludes gameplay, and the game really makes it harder and harder as the game progresses. Now the stats for this playthrough are here. Current playtime 30 minutes, total playtime 2 hours 30. That is not correct. That is in-game. That is absolutely not correct. I'm not sure why it said that. Oh, I think it's measuring the time in turn, not time I spent actually murdering stuff and crying myself to sleep over the game. Harvests, meals, repairs done. So you have a bit of stats that progress to the next turn. I'm going to quit and accept. Just quit and go back to the start menu. There. Now, before I finish this video, there's 2 more things I want to show you, and 1 criticism I really want to level at the game. And you can see it already in screen, which is missions. But first, let's talk about the last 2 things I want to talk about. Okay, so there's 2 more things here. First things first. Scores. I see my score. I'm number 80 in my rank worldwide. Obviously, this is still a press build, so there's not that many players. That's how I got into not being number 80 and not 8 billion. And my personal score. Now this score is from my friends list. Nobody on my friends list has the game, obviously, due to it being a review copy. But if I check global ranking, you'll see that there is quite a few better players out there already, even among those limited review copies. Go back and I can check out the hard as well as normal difficulty. So these have their own score screen, which is pretty nice. I'm a bit sad I can't look up scores of other players. Like, if I really want to know how good is Pro Gamer 101 doing on this game, I can't do that, which is a bit of a shame. But other than that, it's a score screen. You can compete with other players, and your name will be memorized for eternity on this screen if you are in the lucky top 10. Or, I shouldn't say lucky, because this is definitely skilled. Other than that, you have stats. You already saw those stats in the game. Again, here's total playtime. It says 2 hours 16 minutes. Earlier was 2 hours 30 minutes, so this is a bit messed up. But other than that, there's research, repairs, human meals, food harvested, win percentage. God, this game makes me cry. Games played, games won. Okay, so these are the main 2 remaining features, so to say. So the game is all about repeating and replaying those 10 rounds over and over again. Now, there is this thing on screen called missions, and it says coming soon. But developer, your game is coming out. It is getting released. It is actually released today by the time of this video coming up. Don't put placeholders in a commercially released product. Don't. It's anti-consumer. It's like, oh, we have this feature. It's totally not really here. But buy the game for us. I hate that. Don't do that. if you introduce missions, and I'm going to assume missions are something like scenarios where you have a challenge to complete or something like that, great. I wholeheartedly endorse you adding more content after release, whether it be free or DLCs or whatever. But don't do it this way, because you're trying to trick people with a feature that isn't out yet. So all in all, I really like Tharsis. It is a good game with a good set of mechanics and a nice dose of adrenaline and tension every time you make those die rolls and every time you finish a turn not knowing what to get next in terms of random events. So all in all, I greatly recommend this game if you have any interest at all in the rogue-lite genre and the persistent death repeat labyrinth that is games like FTL and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend the game. It is really well put together, and I think the price point is 15 euros, which might be a bit on the steep side, but I feel the game is definitely worth it, so I would urge you to check it out over on Steam. Tharsis is coming out January 12th, which is probably going to be today if you're watching the video when it came out. Otherwise, it's already been out for a while, and go play it. Enjoy. So thank you for watching this review of Tharsis. If you like more content here on the GuyLogic channel, click that subscribe button. If you like this video in particular, click that like button. If you absolutely hated this video, click the dislike button and leave a comment in the section below telling us what we can do different, better, or whether you just like what we're doing in general. And we will see you next time right here on GuyLogic.